Welcome everybody to another episode of the Rugby School podcast. What a weekend of rugby, all the way from New Zealand, all the way from Australia. Rugby Championship is back again. I'm your host, Peter Holt, and I'm not by myself. I'm with Uyo Zanga, former Blitzbokker, Springboks, James Craig, currently based in Bloemfontein, Hugh Griffin, who's at the World Cup rugby that's taking place in England, watching, I think it's Brazil, if I'm not mistaken, taking on Spain, I think. Is that correct, Hugh?
Can you hear me, mate?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Oh, lovely, man. Great stuff. As you can hear, there is a bit of a background feed from Griffin. He's currently at the stadium, and obviously he will chime in every time he is called upon. Vickers, how are things on your side?
Yeah, just a little tired this week. Yeah, but
Good. Vickers is tired from screaming at the telly yesterday morning. Jade, how are things over there? I saw you holding a couple of cold ones early in the morning on Saturday. Talk to me.
Yeah. Frustrating but it's been a good one. I had to get rid of my stuff.
No, fair enough. All right, gentlemen, as we usually kick things off, a few maybe news making headlines just in this past week. Obviously, we didn't record last week. We understand that obviously English Premiership giants, Saracens, are looking to snap up Springbok hooker, Hannes van der Merwe, and over in France, in Bordeaux, centre Yoram Moefana is said to be out of action for the next 3 months after injuring his shoulder in the preseason match against top 14 newcomers Montauban. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Hugh Griffin. Scottish rugby head coach Gregor Townsend has been, he's got an extension on his contract until 2027. Jade, I think Jade and Vuyo, we've spoken so many times about Isle of Scotland changing their coaching staff, because I mean they've had Gregor Townsend now for a very long time. He's almost going up 10 to 12 years in this position. If we're looking at his longevity until 2027, but I mean we thought a guy like Franco Smith could be perfect for that role. Jade, what are your thoughts on Gregor Townsend and the extension until 2027 in the World Cup?
So, we've been calling for it, and we've done multiple things. We give Franco the go. Franco is the coach of the match. I think he will make some correct, tough job, especially in the North Africa, to be stepped up, and try to get into one of those roles. However, I think the end of the year Scotland, I think, saved Gregor Townsend a bit. I think the performance, they weren't that great against Fiji. The performance there in Maori Allblacks, creating history for that second, third string team that they had there, getting that victory over there. I think that helped him a lot for Gregor Townsend. And I don't think he was too bad in the Six Nations, but looking at the potential, looking where they are, I think this is the best Scottish rugby has been in quite a few years now, in quite a few decades. I think we have to go back to the early 90s or so when Scottish rugby really competed, when we were really making World Cup semi-finals. But I think now, I think maybe they just felt the safe bet. The team, they've been going well. They're competitive at home and away. They've got a few big scalps. We saw that they got away from home, especially in France and teams like that. So for me, I think maybe the board just decided let's go safe and do a net World Cup. instead of making that drastic change now and getting the new coach. So I think the end of that tour, we displayed the depth, that stayed Scotland. I think that saved his role. I think that was the made to make that final decision to keep him and extend his contract.
Fair enough. And news coming in today is that the Springboks will announce their team to face the All Blacks in Wellington. The announcement will be made tomorrow, guys, 9 a.m. South African time. So it's quite early in the morning. So Rassie has decided to go for a Monday team announcement. Vickers, what are your thoughts on this change? Last week, obviously, we thought he would name the team on Tuesday, but he said, he was unfamiliar with what the All Blacks will put out there, so he needed to see what the All Blacks will put out until he announces his team, which was basically on Friday, the day before the kickoff in South African time, that is. But now he's decided to go for Monday. What are your thoughts on the change of mind for this week coming for the second test in Wellington?
Yeah, I think, look, there's nothing too deep about it. I think last week he just decided to say what he wanted in that press conference. But for me, it was always going to be about, because you could have easily selected the New Zealand side based on their squad. You could have easily selected a team. Obviously, Parker was a big surprise. But in terms of just the normal team, it was exactly the same. But I think with Rassie, he just decided to wait a little bit longer based on the injuries that they had. They seem to be having a lot of niggles. So maybe that's also preventing him from naming his teams early. And maybe without this week, without having obviously too many issues this week, that's why maybe he's deciding to go early and just announce the team.
All right, fair enough. Hugh Griffin, I'm going to bring you in. Let's get things started. We're going to look at the All Blacks versus Springboks and then Australia versus Argentina. Since it's halftime that side, while we still have you online, maybe it's a bit quieter at halftime. Your thoughts on the game yesterday and what moments did you pick out in this game between the Springboks and All Blacks?
Honestly, mate, I was very disappointed in the Springboks. I've heard South African fans speaking about this game for a year, people picking this out, saying that I saw people saying this is the biggest game since the Rugby World Cup final in 2023. And honestly, did I see a team that was playing a cup final? No. I saw players looking at each other during the game saying, what are we doing? What's the plan here? I was extremely disappointed. New Zealand seemed up for it. It was a cup final for New Zealand, and I didn't get that sense from the Boks, which just goes against everything that we heard building up to this game. So I think that Boks fans have got a reason to be annoyed. I was at half time. I was sat there thinking, I was promised a big game here, guys, and one of the sides hasn't showed up. I'm just being honest. The line out was a shambles. The attack was nothing. They couldn't get anything going. The studs. Who's in charge of the studs for the Springboks? Because clearly they were wearing studs that were too short. Who's making that call? Who's getting the boots out with longer studs? The New Zealand were prepared. Did they not know that it's cold and raining in New Zealand at this time of year? It's just so underwhelming, and you can point to the scoreboard and say, could have drawn it. No, people who I've heard saying, oh, yeah, we nearly got a draw. Like, you weren't here for the draw. Don't start talking to me about the draw. The draw is not what you came for. So, Pollard, when are we ready to have an honest conversation about how the Springbok attack looks when Andre Pollard is playing 10? What attack? Malcolm Marx, when was the last time he actually played well? That's just being honest here. I'm annoyed because I'm underwhelmed, because I was expecting a game for the ages here and I didn't get it because the Springboks did not turn up in this fixture.
Yeah, fair enough. Vickers, you wanted to chime in?
No, I agree with you. I think some of the things we can't really say online, but to be honest, like you said, it was really an underwhelming performance for the Boks, because as much as they were so poor, I mean, to come in the last 10 minutes and almost push to draw the game, and you were so poor, just speaks volumes about the potential that could not potential the what could have happened earlier if they performed. really well. I think, look, we spoke about this many times on the pod in terms of the fatigue, in terms of the players playing in Japan, in terms of how maybe they're not getting the top performance, so the competitive performance. We spoke about how Australia won the first game just to wake something South Africa up. I don't know. I think for me, it's just, if we look at the small things, I think they were really, really poor. We spoke about the lineups. I think my last message when you said my parting shot 2 weeks ago was South Africa needs to fix their lineups. And you would think that Nokia being selected, that would have changed, but nothing changed. Their first lineup was a 4-man, which was also didn't go according to plan. For a Springbok side to be pinned for a miss line-out communication, as in no one jumping, everyone waiting for another player to jump, that is not. It's almost like that's an arrest. That's a warranty to an arrest, because look, you've been together now for how many weeks and how many? I mean, we're probably talking 3 months.
Yes.
Together. No, I'm just talking about the period. The guys go to clubs and they come back.
Fair.
It's probably 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah.
And you can't even get the right call for you guys to mess up that kind of lineup in that area of the field is terrible. And Scoop, again, how many lineups did they lose in the New Zealand 22?
Yeah.
It's a massive. And also the discipline. I mean, some of the penalties, man, come on. And you're like, come on, guys, what's going on? And I mean, it's sad that we're speaking about this now, but if you remember, again, we talked about the leadership and everything. And this week, there was a surprise in terms of the leadership. And then again, it goes back to the same thing in terms of the leadership. What was happening on that field? Who was actually being in charge? Because we saw that at some point there was no one saying to the boys, come on, change. Yeah, so for me, I don't know, man. There's just something that's off. And I don't know what it is, but the guys that are involved will probably know how to fix it if they know. If they don't, then obviously we're in for a long year.
Yeah. No, because, I mean, I want to jump in here. Hugh mentions he didn't get the performance that he probably was expecting from the Springboks. You, Vickers, you're also mentioning things around the Australia game was kind of like a wake-up call. But if we are being genuinely honest, just looking at this year alone and the fixtures we've seen, can we genuinely say that the Springbok team is currently at 100% operating at 100%? If we go back to Italy, right? For example, Italy basically maybe being run off the park in the first half, and then Italy making their way, kind of grinding their way back or clawing their way back in the game. And we see the Springbok side in those two tests not really performing at optimum level. And then we watched them against Georgia. I mean, it was an all right performance. And then immediately after that, 2 weeks later, they play against Australia, and it's a shock to the system at Ellis Park. But even if we look at that Cape Town game, right? I mean, how dominant were the Springboks in that Cape Town game as well? Because they were caught napping in the backfield especially. And it seemed like it was the same thing against the Allblacks as well. From a line out, Bowden Barrett kicks a cross kick, backfield as well, disjointed, because Villaroo was by himself there at the end. And you had Chelsea Colby kind of cross covering in the backfield as well. But at the end of the day, if we really look at the Springbok team, I mean, the lineouts are horrible. They're definitely horrendous. But if we're looking at the Springbok team in terms of performance alone, we can't really. I mean, if you're a Springbok fan, I'm sure you have to be genuinely honest with yourself first and see whether that the team is not performing at the same level they were in 2024. 2024, Springboks looked unbeaten. I mean, only Ireland beat them once, but also by like a drop goal in the 80th minute. Boks looked unstoppable in 2024. But are we getting the same Boks of 2024 in 2025? I don't think so. Jade or Vickers?
Sorry, Scoop.
Yeah.
You mentioning all these things, and sadly, we're not even talking about New Zealand.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that I asked myself, for example, when last did Kenan Moody play 11 jersey? Wear the 11 jersey? I don't think in the last, I would even go as far as 22 years, 3 years. He hasn't worn that 11 jersey for a long time. He's been wearing number 30. He's been on the wing, at the right wing. And now you put him in the game and you put him at 11. For me, I don't know, man. It's just, like I said, there's just too many things that are going on within that system. And I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm not sure. I don't know what is happening, but these are questions that if I was in the system, I would start to obviously look at how you can change it. Because like you say, it's not good enough from what we've seen, the potential of the team versus what it is now. We're talking 1 out of 10, if you could call it like that.
Oh, cheapest. Jade, you've been awfully quiet. Maybe you can bring in some New Zealand expertise to this conversation. What are your thoughts on this game, and what stood out for you? And maybe we'll get into the details now of what went wrong and why things went wrong in certain areas and certain moments of this game. Vickers speaks about the Boks losing a lot of lineouts, especially in crucial moments inside opposition 22. I mean, you're deep in your own attack. You can't lose that platform of attack in that area at this level. But talk to me, Jade.
You know, you got to give New Zealand credit for winning the game. I mean, you can't, if you're an All Black supporter, if you're Razor Robertson, you'll be relieved that, the streak is not broken and he's finally got one against the Boks, I mean, he's lost no point dropped against him. Just starting to get a concern. Were they at their best yesterday? No. Were they better than what we've seen this year? I don't know. I don't think it was the best performance. Did they play according to game plan? Yep, to a certain aspect and to a certain way. But I mean, there's so much more work for the All Blacks to do. But one thing I can say is, and one thing, if you look at the All Black team, in big moments in the game, the big players stood up, and got vital turnovers, made vital tackles. I mean, you look at the Rico and Boks, you look at Adi Xavier at the end. I mean, Bowden Barrett checking the space, early in the game, putting the cross kick through. Those are the things that Razor will be happy about. The lineup was okay. The scrum was a real concern in the second half. I just seen Jason Ryan stage here that, the scrum where Bolton Walk scored it right, where his whole front row lost their footing, and you just spoke about the studs and everything. So, I mean, that's a big concern for a guy like Jason Ryan, pride himself at scrum time. So he'll have a lot to work on. Are they the finished article? No, they're still very far from being the finished article. But they won, School. They won. They kept the streak. I mean, they released stand pressure off of Razor. You remember, he was crucified for that victory, for that loss against Argentina. He was absolutely crucified. So, by the New Zealand media, by the on-social media, they were expecting a big response from the All Black team. They got it to a certain extent where they got the victory, but there's so much work that can be done. I mean, you're still looking at their backline where they seem flat at times. I mean, you're still looking at a game between New Zealand and South Africa where everybody knows that Africa wasn't at the best. However, New Zealand still made more tackles than South Africa in the game. New Zealand made over 146 tackles in the game compared to South Africa's 109. Now, South Africa wasn't at the best. And I'm raised, I'm thinking like, there's still a lot for me to work on. There's really a lot to look at to work on. Yes, there's some big performances yesterday. I mean, you've got to look at them in school. We identified this guy in the early rounds in Super Rugby myself, and we said, Simon Parker, what a player. Look out for him. He's one of those guys that can come in and can make the All Black team. And he took his chance. He took his chance. Tupovai looked very comfortable at lock. He looked very good at lock. We look at the guys like Adi that had a good game. But there's still so much they can do. If you're looking at from an African aspect, and you're looking at where the game went wrong, I don't think that Africa chanced it. I don't think they went wide where they could have. Look at, even on here for your sports in the Super. Look at the time that Rico and old Jordan or off their line and, coming inside. How much space was outside for Kobe, that could have been exploited.
They didn't start playing
think it
until
was so
Sasha
much-
came on.
Yeah, but I don't think that was a trap for New Zealand. I just think that's the way they're defending. So something that Tony Brown can look at next week, and something that, Scott Hansen really needs to look at from the New Zealand aspect, because we're going to do it again next week in Wellington. So Africa doesn't expose them there. So there's a lot for New Zealand still to work on, but I think Rays will be happy with the result. They're happy that he keeps a streak, but I don't think it'll be tomorrow in the review or today in the review. I don't think there'll be so many high fives going around. I think there's a few guys who are getting a lashing on that game as well, because they had their foot against the how can I say, they had the Boks on the rope at 14 or so. The Boks were nowhere in the game where they should have. An All Black team of all would have put the Boks away just there, before half-time game down. But they allowed this Boks team that was underperforming, that wasn't at the best, that slipping tackles, to get within 7 of them, and that's a big concern for New Zealand.
Fair. Vickers, yeah, jump in.
No, I just look. We all, we always have these conversations with you guys in terms of the New Zealand squad. I feel for Razor in terms of, I don't know, are these guys the best players in New Zealand currently? Because if that is so, Jesus, this guy's got a long 4 years to come. He's in trouble.
Nah, I think, I mean, how can I say this? I'll compare this, Vickers, to Hugh. You can jump on just after me quickly. I think, remember Alistair Coetzee in 2016 and 2017, the team he had was pretty much the same players that you saw going on to win a World Cup. We had the same thoughts about the Springbok team in 2016 and 17, right? But for me personally, I think with time together, same coach, same standards being driven, same senior group driving the standards within the team, you start getting ascendancy, and moments like Saturday, things like what happened yesterday, kind of galvanizes you together as a team. You start getting comfortable and confident with the players around you, because they'll go to war with you. You start trusting the players the more you win. Hence I go when I hear you say, "Oh, is this the best in New Zealand?" But at the moment, you look at a guy like Simon Parker has only had 2 tests under his belt. Yesterday, he looked like a guy who's been playing for a while, because if you look at his numbers, tackling, the breakdowns he was involved in, the nuisance he was causing for who's the scrum up for Williams at those breakdowns. The ball for the Springboks wasn't as quick as it should be. He was there contesting, making sure the ball is slow, making sure the ball is ugly at times in those breakdowns. So that's a guy who I think has massive potential, and if he keeps performing at this rate, a year or 2 from now, you won't be looking at him and thinking, "Sheesh, the All Blacks have a terrible team." Because now look where he started. Because, if you look at Siya Kolisi, you look at Eben Etzebeth, you look at Lua Diaga, when these guys started, Eben Etzebeth, when he started, he was a youngster as well, age 22, 23. Who's a 22-year-old now in South Africa that is making inroads as a lock? Because you're going to lose Peter Steph du Toit. You're going to lose Eben Etzebeth. Who in South Africa right now, if you had to go through this depth that people talk about as Springboks, we've got depth that can last us a lifetime. But who's an Eben Etzebeth in this team, or in the country right now in South Africa? Because back then you had the Beckers, you had the Matfields, you had the Bottas, and Eben Etzebeth was coming through the system, so you had backup. But now, if you look at the South African stocks, tell me one guy, because I'll let you think about this, and then Hugh, jump in now.
Yeah, one thing that I do want to give New Zealand credit for is that I felt that they didn't give South Africa an inch, and I mean that literally, and that there was lots of barging, there was lots of nudges, there was lots of contact, not off the ball, but kind of whenever there was a South African line out, whether it was a line out or whether it was anything, the South Africans never had room to breathe, and it was kind of things like, you wouldn't call it illegal because no referee would ever give a penalty for it, but it was always there was someone, so we say, brushing up against the Springbok whenever they tried to do anything. So that's what I'm saying about teams, who was playing their cup final and who wasn't. The Kiwis for me were up for it. They were on top of their opposite man, and they never gave the Springboks a moment to breathe. And you don't. When you talk about talent, you talk about ceilings of players. You don't need to talk about that when we talk about those kind of things. That's just desire. That's just determination. And again, I'm repeating myself. That's why I was so disappointed in the Boks. Is because what I saw from New Zealand in terms of this is life or death. This game, I just didn't see from the Boks, and that's what's so disappointing.
Yeah, no, fair enough, Hugh. I think also going back now to an All Black perspective, in terms of understanding the tactical plays. I mean, we all know the Springboks template, right? And I think Razor and his coaching staff, what they did was literally use the Springbok template. If you look at a guy now like Finlay Christie, for example, I mean, he looked like primetime Faf de Klerk on Saturday with those box kicks, and especially between the 2 10-meter lines, the All Blacks were not playing any rugby. Because remember how many times we've said in this pod, New Zealand played too much rugby. New Zealand are passing the ball too many times. New Zealand are forcing plays instead of playing strategically. And Saturday, they played tactical rugby. They forced Springbok to make errors, like you has just mentioned. They didn't allow South Africa to breathe. They forced Springboks to make errors, challenging the backfield. Colby, I mean, how many times have you seen Cheslin Colby making errors in a game? Yesterday, he was forced to actually take part and also forced to challenge, to make mistakes, Willie Leroux, how often did we get to see him in the game, besides making certain errors as well? I see people are already blaming him for that first try already. I mean, yeah, for me, you can't really defend that unless you would say that Willie Leroux probably should have ran up at quick speed to kind of catch up with the ball, and then within 5 meters you start slowing down, shorter footsteps to kind of anticipate what is going to happen next. But I think for him, he just fully committed, and by the time Narawa caught the ball, he was out of position. He wasn't in a strong position to make a tackle, and he just slid under him because the other option would have probably been to dive on a player, which would have been a penalty anyway. So there's no other way of explaining it.
Just dive on him, man. Just take him out. Just smash him like in WWE. Just do it.
Do something. Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
concede a try.
Yeah, what I'm saying is Springboks, All Blacks for me, just literally took the Springbok template and executed it well. We remember how many times everyone this past week or the past 2 weeks has complained about how poor the All Blacks aerial game was. The Springboks were very poor in their aerial game on Saturday, and they were challenged. Because now, remember, I don't know, Jade, if you remember how many times I've said, Beauden Barrett, his kicking was always too far, and it was never like underneath the players where an actual player can contest and cause trouble, whether it's tapping it backwards to the escorts or whether you are catching the ball clean. I mean, now Damian McKenzie had a nice clean catch against Hilton Kobe where he marked the ball as well. But like it was those moments for me that I went, they're not playing too much. Beauden Barrett is actually controlling the game rather than forcing things. The Boks probably started playing in that last 20 minutes. They got ascendancy. But I also think that was caused because Tupovai stopped contesting in those lineouts as well when Holland came in. And things like that gave the Boks a bit of ascendancy when you were literally putting them under the pump at lineout time. So and then they got good scrum. I mean, that one scrum, they really bamboozled the All Blacks. Whether Jason Ryan says they lost their footing or not, there's something that he needs to focus on as well. I mean, I think the All Blacks only got one penalty in the scrum in that situation. But yeah.
So, you were talking about Finlay Christie, who was kicking 10-meter bombs yesterday. But anyway, we're not there. Look, if there's one thing that you have to give coaching is about finding a weakness within your opposition team and using it to your strength. For example, if you guys remember last year, I think I spoke about you cannot tap a ball with two hands. You have to catch it with two hands, and you can tap it with one hand. The ball that one of the bombs that we South Africa kicked, even Etzebeth tapped with two hands straight into Finlay Christie, because Finlay Christie was waiting for the tap. So every time the Boks kicked a box kick that didn't go too far, the New Zealanders knew that, okay, chances are you will have Ibn Itabeth trying to win the ball back, and let us infiltrate the other side because obviously there's no offside line. So it's just one of those things, man. And I wish coaches could start to learn this, because in sevens we know it. In sevens we understand it, because kickoffs is the biggest contributor to tries. So in sevens we understand that there are players coming through, so we always try kick differently. Sometimes we go low kicks, high kicks, depending on the opposition. But I wish like these guys could start to learn small things like that. That if you're going to be tapping balls with two hands, rather catch it, because the opposition will start to use that against you. And New Zealand were blocking all those kind of things yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. Jade?
Yeah, I mean, I want to add on that, in terms of the aerial skill, it's not just like we mentioned, catching the ball with two hands or tapping the ball back with two hands and getting control. It's knowing where you are on the field and looking at your surroundings as well. I mean, look yesterday, the Boks scored a try with Mark. After the kickoff, soft obstruction to give away. We Quintupai was obstructed by, I think it was Noord, the Jager. From there, you would have thought Scott Barrett would go for the three. He never. He went for the line. They walled. Kwagga was sent off. Quintupai scored 2 or 3 minutes later from there. So it's knowing your awareness, knowing what's around you. And that's what Argentina did brilliantly 2 weeks ago against New Zealand. They knew exactly who's around. When you're putting the kick up, you know exactly who's there. You sit up back, you know who's there, who's cover, who's sweeping around. So, that's another skill they can really look at, in terms of the aerial skills. It's not just about, like Bruno said, you gotta have that skills going up, catching the ball with two hands, or tipping back with two hands, but know where you are on the field, know your surroundings. And another thing yesterday, Scoop, the removal of Narawa early in the game, unfortunately, I think he's out the next week as well. Looks like a broken leg. But it also helped New Zealand because it was wet, conditions were bad, but they had an extra kicker in the field, in the team. So they basically had D-Mac early on the field, was Jory Barrett, Bowden Barrett, and Will Jordan, and Van Christie. So they had a lot of options, at the back. They had a lot of options to win that tactical game, to put those kicks up, and we've seen it in the past with Bodie. You mentioned that, sometimes he's been kicking to shadow, or he's been kicking pointlessly. But I think yesterday they were brilliant. And I think also that extra option they had, was with D-Mac coming on early, because I think he must have had one of his better games with the All Blacks. This year, I think this might have been his best game for the All Blacks this year, because I think he was absolutely solid and reliable. And also when he did kick, he kicked tactically good yesterday as well.
Yeah, fair enough. But now, guys, what are we going to do, Vickers, Malcolm Marx? Because Bongi is in South Africa, handling family stuff. Who is next in line? Or would you still start Malcolm Marx next week?
Yeah, he has to start, bro. There's nothing else. He has to start. I think the challenge that the Boks are going through, obviously with a lot of small things, just by getting married, given time off, Bongi given time off because of family personal things, Marx not being on form. I think they have to force it. I don't know. Sometimes as coaches we pick up players that are off form, and we keep selecting them. But the most important is the conversation that you have with the player, because just like cricket, just like any batting sports, when you're off form, you're always told to go back to your basics. So I think the most important is to going back to basics for him, and just making sure, first of all, guys, give me the easiest lineouts. Don't complicate my life, right? That's the first one. Secondly, let me chase rucks, because that's what he's good at. Let me chase rucks. Let me try and make some steals, because if I make a steal, I'll get more confident. So it's just going back to basics. And unfortunately, they don't have an experienced hooker who come in and try and push Marks to perform. So it's gonna be like this, because Scoop, you were sitting here 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Bongi's performance, and you both said he's also not doing justice to Marx. So who's pushing who?
Oh yeah.
So unfortunately, they find themselves in these positions, but they will have to start making way.
Yeah, no, but because I mean, you've got Nokia, you've got Eben, you've got Peter Steff, you have who else there? Or who came on from the bench? You had Luert. These are all 5 locks in the game, so you could throw the ball to any of these guys. But yet the Springboks still struggled to find the target. Surely, I mean, Rassie in these post-match games,
they can only catch it if he actually throws it.
Fair. I think the one throw, he was complaining about the noise at the stadium. He was pointing at his ear. Rassie in his post-match is like, no, it wasn't one person making errors in the game. It was this guy and that guy and that guy. I'm like, there's one constant denominator in the lineout. How is that not one person causing a problem? There's one denominator. There's one thrower. Eben is not throwing. Van Staden is not throwing.
But you see, Scoop, the problem with lineouts is that you have to pick up cues. And also, because you have studied the opposition lineouts, you almost know which way they set up. I kind of like the first lineout where they went with the 4-man. It was in their 22 years, which is normally, that's in the DNA of South African rugby. I kind of like that lineup, but South Africa can drive from a 5-man lineup. For me, those are the things that I think they need to start focusing on. Focus on getting less numbers in the lineout, and then just getting your ball. That's it. Because currently South Africa is the worst in terms of the lineout execution in the Rugby Championship. And mind you, they're also the worst in the tackle stats. So can you imagine, you had Jacques Dinaba, who was a defense guru, they call him, and then he left. So now you are the worst in terms of tackles. And then you have a lineout specialist. I don't know who's doing the lineouts, maybe Dion, I don't know, but you have guys that are doing lineouts that you are losing lineouts. You are the worst lineout in the Rugby Championship. It's unheard of, not from a team that should be number one. And by the way, the performance that they're giving makes sense why they're not number one anymore.
Hugh, what would you do in this situation? Or Jade, you wanted to jump in? I can see you are eager.
Yeah, I'm eager. Before I forget to mention this, for me the solution is simple in terms of Malcolm. Look at Bongi's age. Will Bongi make it to another World Cup? I don't think so. I don't think so. He's starting to take ball. So the question you asked, who's next in line if you drop Malcolm off? You're going to play Hendrik Wessels at hooker. I don't think he's going to give you much assurity at line-up time, much more assurity than Malcolm Mox. He's playing loose-head prop and then hooker, loose-head prop, and then I think he needs to drop down into a position now. And then there's Marcus van der Merwe, who is relatively inexperienced. So I think Malcolm Mox plays again next week. But here's my issue with Malcolm Mox. What I would do if I was Rassie, I would have chat him and say, Malcolm, let's consider getting you back to South Africa. Because for me, to be honest, in Japan, the line-out work and, they work, in terms of your sink, in terms of throwing line-out ball in pressure situations, not what it is as going to be at URC level and playing, European Championship level as well. So let's consider getting you back to South Africa because you've got another World Cup. And you're one of my key players. Listen, mate, you missed the last World Cup. You got injured. So we got to really get you to the next World Cup. You're one of my key players. I can't lose you. You're a guy that's most likely going to go 60 minutes every test. You're going to start because Bongi's not there anymore. If Bongi doesn't play, you're going to play 60, 70 minutes. So I'm going to need you back in South Africa. Think about it. Come back to South Africa. Let's work here with the likes of Lewis, with the likes of Eben, maybe at the Sharks, or wherever he goes. He's going to go to the Bulls, Kia's there. They have fun here, and they've got a few lock there as well. So let's look at it this way. Come back to South Africa. Let's work on this. Let's get you playing at a higher tempo, more physical game, throwing in pressure situations, getting you giving a closer eye on your game, and then we can also control your conditioning, going into the next World Cup. That would be my move, I would say. for Malcolm Boks because he's tapering off. He's not in the best form. A year ago, he would have been the best hooker in the world. But right now, I would say, she and Cody Taylor is better than him at the moment. Even Montoya is better than him at the moment. I'm honest. I'm being honest here.
Yeah, fair.
Kind of form, yeah. So what I would do is I'd say, listen, we need to get you back in South Africa. Think about it. You've had a long spell in Japan. Let's get you back. Let's focus on you going to the next World. Because honestly, the next World, there's a good chance that he could be vice captain. He could want to be one of the main leaders in the squad as well.
Yeah.
So no. Stop this, captain. Jesus,
no. But I'm saying
man.
to be one of the leaders in the squad. He's definitely one of the leaders. He'll be in the leadership group.
Because why don't you agree that Malcolm Boks can be one of the leaders in the team in 2027?
We have so many captains. Can you just wait for the captaincy, please?
All right, fair enough. But there's another detail for me, guys, in these games, right? I mean, the breakdown at the moment, I think is quite chaotic, to be honest, because now referees are not penalizing players in certain situations. Remember the new law that came out, right? That now breakdowns need to be 5 seconds. How many of the breakdowns you saw yesterday from both teams took more than 5 seconds once the referee saw the ball is available and counted use it in this situation? Because I think at this moment now, World Rugby comes up with a law. Okay, guys, you've got shot clocks for getting conversions over and getting penalty kicks over, etc. They said, okay, now we want to kill the caterpillar because it's taking way too long for players to use the ball in those situations. But I haven't seen any referee since the Lions tour where somebody goes, use it, and a 9 takes 5 seconds. A 9 takes 5 seconds to clear that box kick at all. Anyway, Griffin, if you are now Rassie Erasmus, next week, do you start Pollard or do you start Manny Libok?
Well, you know me, mate. I'm a big Manny fan. I start Manny every day of the week. But I think Rassie's got to have an honest conversation with him and his coaches. It's all very well having this ultimate rotation, ultimate depth, ultimates. They never know who we're going to pick or how we're going to play. I think that he needs to have an honest conversation with his coaches and saying, look, are we about winning or are we about something else? And if we're about winning, who's actually playing well for us at the moment? Because there are guys who aren't just not playing that well at the moment. There's guys who aren't playing that well for a few years. And I'm not just talking about who plays 10 or, I'm talking about across the team. There are guys who obviously are playing well and you're hampered by injuries and things, but then you don't get to talk about having the best depth in the world and then complain about injuries. So, for me, I think it needs to be, look, if we want to win, who's actually playing well these days? And then who do we see as will be the ones who will be playing well in a couple of years' time? It's just about an honest conversation at this point.
Fair enough. Vickers, how important is Jasper Visser this weekend in Wellington?
Of course, it's key, bro. It's key because at the moment it looks like the Boks don't have an 8, and that's the sad part is that yes, he has played there now in he played there the first game and then this past game. Rassie doesn't want to start Kwaha, so basically that tells me that Kwaha is not he's not the 8 they want.
Yeah.
Then you have Jean-Luc who was supposed to start, he got injured.
2 games in a row, this Jean-Luc business.
Exactly. So I don't know, bro. For me, it's just simple. They need an 8 now to come back, which is just what he said, or they need to go find one. It's a with the 8 and the hooker's position, Scoop, we're exactly in the same boat at the moment because you have 8s that are playing there, but no one is happy with the 8s. Then you have a hooker who's playing there, but no one is happy with the hooker. So at the moment,
Russ,
look, it's clearly not the guy because
he doesn't like him because there's no other reason.
Yeah, of course. No, not that he doesn't like him. I think let's not be too harsh. Let's look at it in a sense where he doesn't fit his style of play. The way he wants to play with the 8s. Russ doesn't fit it. So that's fair as a coach. That's fair. But
because this one is hard to take. It's hard to understand, number one. It's hard to take in because at this point, you're struggling with number 8 because you are struggling with number 8.
I do understand that. But at the same time, Scoop, we're talking about you in terms of a coach, you have to allow the coach to do what he wants. Because at the end of the day, he will be the one standing in front of the cameras and saying, yes, I failed. Or he'll be the one standing in front of the camera and say, look, guys, I'm out. You know? Because for me, we all know Ross is fit, but he hasn't played. He's not playing. So which means if you are talking basically now about selection, he's clearly not the fave. And unfortunately, if you look at all around South Africa, we don't have 8. We got Kieran Horn, not Kieran Horn, Frankie Horn at 8 for the Lions. We got obviously the injured guy from the Bulls, the youngster. We got at the Sharks, we don't have an 8. It's Pepsi plays 8, Sia plays 8. Like there's no 8s in South Africa. I don't know what happened since Dwayne retired. All of a sudden, all our 8s are gone.
Oof. It's going to be the same once Elizabeth leaves, huh?
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be exactly the same.
It's not just the 8, the depth. I mean, it's the profile of the 8 as well, you know, because we're looking at it, the guys we mentioned there now, I mean, Frank won't come as well. I think we need one of them in that squad because we're talking about the lineup goals, but I mean, you only have 3 jumpers. I think the Boks could do with another jump in that team. Not just in terms of jumping, in terms of support as well, in the lineup time, you know. They are at the back, especially in the tail ball. So I think that's also, you know, a profile that might be missing in South African rugby at the moment, where Erich Lau, Cornel Ranapum, and, you know, those 2 guys are surely missed in this Bok team, you know, because of their versatility, playing a flank and at
8. 100%. And maybe it's time to even put a guy like Chituka at 8. Maybe change him to 8 because he's tall enough. He can literally become. He's robust in his ball carries. So why not maybe a guy like that? But obviously, it all has to do with the profile of how the coach wants to play.
Okay. Instead of Mani Libok, why not maybe start Sasha? Because I think once Sasha came on, the Springbok backline actually probably looked more alive. Let's be honest, because Sasha also is a 10 that takes the ball up into the line, right? He forces the defenders to really start making decisions. Pollard did not threaten the line at all in when he was on. So maybe why not start Sasha? Or maybe Rassie wanted to see how Sasha would be in this game, and I think he really put his hand up to start in Wellington because I think the Wellington game will probably be more open and less conservative. There will be more running and probably a much high-scoring game as well next weekend. But, I mean, Jade, why not maybe start? Do you think Sasha would be a good choice to start ahead of Pollard? And Pollard can come in and close the game in the last dying minutes.
Depends. But remember, Wellington as well, what the conditions going to be? Is it going to be the same like Eden Park? What are the conditions? Remember, that Cape Town can also be bad, you know, when that wind gets in there. You know, that wind is terrible at Cape Town as well. So remember that as well. So I would also that you have to judge and look at the conditions, prepare for the worst, you know. If it's going to be dry, if it's going to be fine, you know, then it's fine. It's Sasha go. But if it's going to be similar to conditions like yesterday, you know, where it's heavy on the foot, where it's raining, then you might as well just stick with Pollard, you know. Because I know Andre Pollard sitting deep down in the back is thinking to himself, listen, I wasn't my best just trying to up my game. But you got to look at the condition before you play. I'm a big Sasha fan. I would love for him to get a start against the All Blacks. I think, you know, if it's dry and he'll get that backline quickly, you know, he'll spread the space of wide that I did mention a lot. But yeah, you've got to look at conditions first, and that's what Rassie is going to do. I think you might see, you know, a similar case this week with him naming the team earlier. He might make a late change again. Somebody might get injured, you know, later in the week for him to make a change depending on conditions.
All right. No, fair enough. Now going into starting lineups for next week, Vickers, maybe start with you in terms of who would you like to see? Do you keep the same team? And obviously, what will your split be on Monday?
I'll basically go with the same team. I'll probably just go with a different 8. I'd probably, if Jasper is back from his honeymoon, probably go Jasper Visa at 8. But obviously, if not, then we stick with the same. But backs for me, I would go Grant, Sasha, Mapimpi, Dialende, Creel, Cheslin Kobe, and Fassi. That's what I would do. But
Fassi.
Yeah, for sure. I would go with them because, look, at the end of the day, you've got nothing to lose at the moment because you've already lost the game. And if you lose the second one, nothing's going to change. So I would rather start building what I think should be your team going to end of the year tour. Or maybe, I would think differently because of that. In terms of, look, you only have Argentina left. We know that you're playing Argentina in South Africa, you're playing Argentina in England. So it's not really, for me, it's not really like a pressure. I think obviously the Boks don't want to finish last in the Rugby Championship, but he, knowing the doctor, he's already got so much leeway when it comes to performances for the Boks, so he can do what he wants. I think it's time to start working on a new plan because this plan, I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing. It's not saying that you don't care about winning, but you just look at, guys, let's start, because we're all aware that Vili is not going to be there in 2027.
Yeah.
So start building, start giving Fassi the hard games.
Yeah.
Start putting him under pressure.
Fair, because you're still 2 years out, I guess, in this game. Jade, for you, who would would you have the same idea as Vickers for the Springboks, and then after that, with the All Blacks, how would you start? Who would you start for the Wellington Test? Do you keep the same team, or who would be the additional player for you?
I think Rafi had a plan way before the result of what you do in the Wellington Test, I think there's a few guys that will come into this Wellington Test. I think, we might see Fassi will come in. I mean, it's not Pimpy on the wing. You might see him, Danny Williams give a bench. Just Visa will play. So I think you'll go, in terms of that, you'll give two more guys opportunity. Ergis Neyman has to be the 23, same as Franco Boster. You'll look at those guys, and that will be he'll shape his team around. He'll give a few guys up. That didn't play in the first test because I think he already set his team out for the Wellington Test and he won't make too many changes like he did with the Australian game because he knew that the Eden Park Test could have went either way. He could have won it close, he could have lost it close. I think he will still stick to his plans. But for New Zealand, Cody Taylor's out. Cody Taylor has to stand out for concussion, so you might see Samusoni starting and then Brody McAllister coming in. Obviously, Narawa being out, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Where they slot Caleb Clark back. Will he come back on the wing? Shift Rico to 14. Will he put Leslie Luku there? Will he bring Sehuris there? Will he give Ruben Love a start at 15, on his whole pitch, and then move Jordan onto the wing? So it's interesting to see what he does in the backpacks. But I think the forward will be more or less the same. I don't think, especially with Barry Tubelotti still being out, so I think he'll have the same forward back more or less. And that's what he'll do. You might see Lomax maybe getting a start.
Yeah.
I think instead of on the bench,
I think so.
Maybe giving you a rest because he's played a lot of rugby and bringing Tossi. So he might make that change over there. But other than that, I think it will be more or less the same. 80% of the team will be the same. Maybe Sportus Rattan was fit because he was touch and go for the last test.
Yeah, he should be fit for this weekend.
He should be fit. So to see what he do, will he stick with Christie or will he go with Cortez? So we'll see what he do with that. But yeah, so that will be more or less the changes there with the All Black. But like for Rassi, I think he has his team set out long ago already. He knew the result would be close at Eden Park, so we go ahead with this plan for Wellington. And remember, New Zealand don't do well in Wellington.
Exactly.
I think the Boks won. Boks unbeaten the last 3 tests in Wellington against the Boks.
Imagine, it's their home ground.
It's their home ground, So I think they maybe think it's Wellington in the ball, and that's why. So yeah.
Fair enough. I think for myself with the Springboks, with Jasper Visser coming in, I think it gives them a better platform to go for a 6-2 on Monday, tomorrow, when they announce the team. And I think, Sia goes back to normal position. And I've never seen Jasper jump in the line-out, but anyway, we'll see what plans they conjure up. But also there's an Argeus Neyman that probably comes in, and Sos probably comes in as well. And I think there'll be a better response in terms of a start from the Springboks. But then if the All Blacks can weather the storm in that first quarter, because I think the Springboks will be angry, but if they can weather the storm in that first 20 minutes and the game is within reach, I think the All Blacks will have enough in the tank to go all the way. But if they can't weather the storm, it could be an outright game against them. But like I said, it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I would like to see Caleb Clark come in, and maybe I'm not sure about Rico, man. I think this was his last chance saloon at Eden Park, and he was no way in this game. For me personally, I didn't think there was a lot of impact that I expected from him. Narawa had more impact in 2 minutes in this game, and Rick, yeah.
What's the goal? Rico was outstanding on defense. Rico was good on defense. Just go take the cabin and check where he defended in the last 20 minutes. He'll get back to me on this. Take the cabin check where he defended in the last 20 minutes, and he'll get back to me on this one. He was good on defense.
The thing is, for him, Rico is lucky he's got this speed that he can track back quite quickly, and he can be there to cross cover as well, so that helps him. But in terms of ball in hand, that's what I'm talking about, where I don't see a lot from him. I mean, you would expect an All Black winger to have a dominant performance. Everyone who's worn either the 14 or the 11 jersey, but at this point, it doesn't seem like there's an All Black 11 or 14 that can give them that gain line advantage, that can carry the ball up to the line, that can break tackles, that can move around tackles, that also is active around breakdown. Things like that, for example. I mean, when Talea came through, I mean, he was a nuisance, even though he had some errors, etc. But I think he was a nuisance, and also it almost looked like he had Vaseline on his legs or his arms because nobody could tackle him, right? So a guy like that, for me, I think that's what the All Blacks lack at this moment, is when it comes to the wingers. Somebody who's probably untouchable. Like if they go with Lester Fainganuku, I wouldn't be surprised, because then he can give them that ascendance. He can give them beautiful, good carries, because then now you've got RD, you've got Wallace Satiti, then you have maybe a Tupofai on the carries. You've got one or two props that can carry as well. And then now if you have a backline player that also can add on to the carries, then you can get good gain line advantage. You've got multiple carriers across the park. So, yeah, maybe they should start thinking about that. And in terms of game plan, as the All Blacks, I don't think I would change much. I would keep it the same and not change anything, because I know Razor likes to he likes to play around with game plans. Because in Argentina, the first test, they had a forward game plan, which worked for them. And then in the second test, they wanted to focus more on defending by the looks of things. And it didn't work well for them. And on yesterday, they had a perfect Springbok template, get the ball out of our own half, play in the right areas of the game. Do the same thing in Wellington, and trust me, the All Blacks can win again against the All Blacks. I don't care about winning pretty. Just win 2 in a row against the Springboks to build some confidence, as I said earlier. Anyway, Vickers, your thoughts on Australia, Argentina, and Jade, you can jump in after that, and then I think that's where we close it off.
Yeah, look, it was a game it was an interesting game, because Argentina were pretty comfortable in the game. They didn't look like they would be losing that game at all until Australia just started fighting back. I think for me, the most important thing is that with the Australian team that we've seen now, they're starting to build a lot of resilience, and they're starting to get a lot of confidence when it comes to going for pushing to win the games. And I like that. And I think, look, it's a matter of getting back to the Australia that we know. And I think with these performances that they're putting together, they are starting to obviously turn heads and making people think about, obviously, Australia. I just feel like, imagine for Australia, change after this. We're halfway through the season, and I'm already calling it a success. Yes, I know they lost in the Lions series, but I'm already calling it a success based on where they came from and where they are. and then you're going to lose your coach. And it's so sad, man. But anyway, look, I think we like Argentina, obviously, class. 2 tries from scrum plays. That's also very very unheard of, because obviously scrum defense and line-out defense is the most organized because you train it quite a lot. For Argentina to conjure 2 tries from that, it's quite massive. And I think, look, for me, Argentina just playing some exciting rugby, man. And I actually was thinking about World Cup 2007 when they beat France that opening game, and then obviously they didn't go further. And then in 2015 when they played in the semifinals. So I don't know. Maybe this is the team for Argentina to go all the way to the final.
Yeah.
So they're playing some very good rugby, and I think the coaching staff, obviously speaking the same language helps. So for me, I think it's they definitely on the right track, and I hope that they don't lose the main key players. Their centers are brilliant. Their centers are brilliant. They've got 2 good fly-offs that are very stable. They've just found Garcia at scrum off with the other guy who's been there last year. So I think they're putting something together, and I hope that they can stick to this group till the 2027 World Cup.
Oh, fair. Jade, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the first off, I thought Argentina was brilliant. So they just picked up the win against New Zealand. I mean, Chocobaras at center was absolutely brilliant again. The back 3, Dalgai, and Malia were completely outstanding. The skill set that Argentinian team has now at the moment, it's unbelievable. And you're looking at the Lustrio as well. I mean, you're looking at whether they're playing Kramer, whether they're playing Gonzalez and Matera, or whether they're giving Oviedo a chance. They just got so much balance in that Lustrio. And then they made a stupid decision before half-time, not taking the free. I mean, make it, 24-7, makes it 3 scores that the Wallabies have to get, to get close to you. That's the moments where, I think Montoya is lacking as a captain at times, making the right decision at times. So, yeah, just look at how many scores it would take to get to you, because obviously the way I see it is, once I'm out by 7 points, I'm not counting so much the points that I'm against you. I'm counting all the scores. How many tries do you need to get back into this game? I think rather have 3 scores, where you score 3 times before they close to you, they close to you. So I think from Australian perspective, I think that was one of the better performances from those who are really yesterday. I think even Nikita or Jill, the good defenders, they got back into the game. I think Tenla, Tupou, Robertson were poor, very, very poor. The 2 prop, they were very poor. And then Angus Bell again came on and changed the game. He got to really try again. But I think they missed Skelton yesterday. You could see it was evident they missed Skelton. They missed his physicality. He had Tom Wood a good Deuce forward. He can play lock as well, but he's not a world Skelton in terms of physicality. So that will see their locks play. They're going to lack, Skelton not there. They don't have that physicality in front like they did have, a few weeks ago against the Lions. So for me, Australia, they'll take the win. I think Joe Smith will demand that they get better because of the sniff. There's a sniff that they can win this rugby championship,
Hey, take it easy.
If they win next week, it's in their hands. If they win next week, it's in their hands. It's in their own hands.
It's between 2 teams.
Between 2 teams or 3 teams, it depends on the Boks and the Allblacks. But if they win next week and the Wallabies win the final 2 games, they win the rugby championship. It's in their hands, And you always want to be in that position as a coach instead of hoping for other results to go your way. So for me, in terms of Joe Smith and his Wallaby team, I don't think he'll be happy with their performance. But then again, they played in town. Where did they play? Townsend, or I know it's in the Queensland country, where they played yesterday. So they're taking it there as well. How did that disrupt the Wallabies as well? Because they're also not used to really playing at that stadium. That's more of a league stadium they use for rugby league more than union. So Australian Rugby Union, I know there are a big test this year, but what was the damage be just keeping the game as gun for in Sydney just for this Argentina team?
They should have taken them to Darwin. I promise you they would have definitely dominated the game.
Canberra. They could have taken the game to Canberra. I mean, they haven't got a test this year. But anyway, I don't know what the issue is there. But for Joe Smith, for Joe Smith, he'll be looking at it and he has to improve, for next week. But Argentina, if they're going to bring it and they're going to play 20 minutes of good rugby against you, they can score 3 or 4 tries in the 20 minutes, and it's evident with their performance. I think what the coaches talk wants now, they want more games, they want more. They want more minutes in terms of performance.
Yeah.
Instead of having these glimpses of 20, 30 minutes, they want it to be,
full 80.
2 halves of that.
Yeah.
And full 80. Then they'll be, they'll be brilliant. I think the Type 5 scoop is looking better than what it was last year. They're not getting bullied like they were last year.
True.
So I think that's looking different. But yeah, let's see how they go next week. We could again see next week.
Yeah.
The Boks win and Argentina win, you don't know, but this rugby championship is very close this year, so let's evaluate again.
No, 100%. But for me, before we close it off, I think Australia, in that first half, defensive errors, as usual. Set piece tries. Come on, guys. It's man on man pretty much in those situations, right? At set piece, there's forwards that are against forwards. There's backline versus backline. If there's a few people or a scrum time, it's 8 versus 8 in the scrum. It's 7 versus 7 in the backline. So just defensive reads for me, Australia needs to really work on those, because Argentina didn't even spend a lot of time in that in that first half, in the 30 minutes. They didn't spend a lot of time in the Wallabies 22. All the tries came out from outside the 22, around from the halfway mark or the 10-meter mark. So they really need to work on those on their defensive patterns and defensive lines. It worked. It was better in the second half, but yeah, they just need to work a bit better, because also some mistakes by Liner as well. Him and forgot the fullback now. The guy who just came in at fullback. Kellaway, yeah. So, things like that, there was a bit of miscommunication at times, and Argentina pounced on certain mistakes, things like that. They need to really adjust. But they looked much better at Australia once Justin Bieber, JOC, James O'Connor, came in and looked more organized. Len Ikitau, how freaking good. He's one of the best guys. Without Lenny in that midfield, I think Australia would struggle quite a lot. So he's very important for that team. Vickers, before we go, any parting shots or last final comments before we close it?
Yeah, no, look, it's another weekend we're looking forward to of this top rugby.
Yeah,
I think for me, it's just like Jade said, this whole rugby championship is just. It's more competitive this year, and I think if New Zealand win this one, they go into a comfort zone. If Australia win, then it's between 2 teams. But if the Boks or Argentina win, it's back to neck and neck, 2-on-2. So, yeah, for me, I think most of these teams have to kick themselves in terms of their performance. Like for Argentina to lose that game from being so far ahead, and for the Boks not to turn up in the first 60 minutes of the game. So the teams have to kick themselves for such things. And this is why we love the sport, is because most of the time, if it's strength versus strength, it's all in the mental game. And I think with these 2 teams having lost now, they'll probably obviously having to go back to the drawing board and fix the mental side of the game, because you have to pitch up. Otherwise, you get yourself into these kind of things, and you have to get yourself out. So for me, it's just to say that these guys need to improve, and especially for the Boks, because they've disappointed a lot of people out there.
Yeah, Jade?
My counting thoughts for this weekend, I'd just like to mention to you, there's a one brand new
fair enough. Guys, that brings us to an end of our lovely chat this afternoon. And yeah, look forward to the podcast either later this evening or earliest Monday morning. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcast. Thank you very much to the listeners. Thank you guys for joining in. I see all your faces there. I see all your emojis. And yeah, great stuff, guys. And looking forward to the chat online during our Twitter feeds. This week is gonna be hectic since the Springboks are announcing their team on Monday. Trust me, there will be late changes again by Friday or Thursday. I'm gunning for the Springboks going 6-2 and the All Blacks staying as they are. Anyway, thank you guys. This is the Rugby Scoop. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely week. Have a lovely Sunday. See you guys next week. Bye.